Good morning. It's so good to see you guys. If you're joining us for the first time, I'm Miss Samantha, and this is the Cedar House, Texas. We are an outdoor homeschool tutorial that is not able to meet right now, so we've been doing some live videos to connect with our kids and also to let some of you guys see a little bit of our farm. And we cannot wait till we can all come back together again and enjoy the outdoors, exploring God's creation together. This morning, I'm going to do a little bit of morning time mixed in with some science things that we've talked about. And so, anyway, I'm just kind of hanging out a little bit, talking to you, chatting for a few minutes just to give everybody a chance to jump online and see this live feed. So anyway, I'm super excited about this lesson, and I've got a couple of cool things to show you. If you've been watching to see Ruby, our cow, give birth or see how she's doing, this is not a Ruby giving birth video. This is our normal scheduled live video for the Cedar House, Texas. We usually do it on Tuesday mornings and Wednesday mornings live for about an hour, and I'm really excited about tomorrow. Tomorrow, Miss Sally is going to be live from her kitchen, and she's going to be doing a lovely French lesson. She has some amazing French skills and cooking skills as well, if you know anything about her. And so tomorrow's going to be a special treat because this semester we were reading Swiss Family Robinson, and when they would go in their cave, one of their dwellings in the winter, they would study different languages, and one of them was French. And so anyway, we had planned to do a little French lesson at some point, so I cannot wait for tomorrow morning. So don't miss tomorrow morning live at 10 a.m. Ruby is doing just fine. We're going to read a little story at the end of this, and I'll give you all the update on Ruby, but she's doing just fine. I let her out to pasture this morning, and I just glanced over in the pasture and she was there. She goes in and out of the trees. So anyway, I'm going to see. Good morning! Good morning. I see Faith is here, Zane and Landon. So good to see you guys. Okay, we've got a great morning planned for you guys. I'm super excited. I've been missing the outdoor classroom, so I decided to come over here and say hello to you guys from the outdoor classroom, and we'll be doing our stuff from over here. And you don't see Henley here because I'm not quite sure what happened to him. He is on the property somewhere, so maybe he'll pop in just a little bit, but I didn't have time to call and holler for him. I was too busy setting up what I had planned. So we're going to start out this morning with our normal The Bluebirds and Their Neighbors book. If you guys have been following along, we've been talking about these little critters that live sometimes in different seasons on this little farm. And so here we go. So I'm going to read a chapter out of this, and then we're going to get started on our lesson. And we had run into a skunk the last time we were reading. So now we're on chapter 19, and Spot the skunk finds a home. And last night, last night was my fourth night to sleep in a tent over here. And in the night, I did smell a skunk, and I was so nervous. I was like, please don't let it be anywhere near where it sprayed us, and we're going to smell all night long. But it moved along. So I don't know what that was all about, but it didn't smell like a skunk all night. So I'm going to read to you guys about Spot the Skunk Finds a Home. Woo! Said Johnny Chuck as he limped toward his friendly burrow. That was a close call, sure enough. Spot the Skunk lowered his tail and turned to see who was talking. Indeed it was, said Spot. It was the closest call I have had in many a day. The closest call you have had, said Johnny Chuck. Whom do you think Aquila was after? Why, me, of course, said Spot. Johnny Chuck showed the gash on his back to Spot the Skunk. Does that look as if he was after you? He asked. I must go right in and have Miss Chuck attend to this wound. It will never do to neglect it. When Johnny Chuck went into his friendly burrow, Spot the Skunk turned and galloped leisurely in the direction of the little jungle thicket. From there, he crossed over to the shadow of the hedgerow that ran along the back of the apple orchard. By the time he reached the far end of the hedgerow and had stopped now and then to eat a grasshopper or a beetle, the long shadows covered the great wide world and those of the wild creatures that play during the day had gone to sleep. One by one, those that sleep during the day and play at night, like Spot the skunk, were staring out on their evening rambles. Spot the skunk was not quite sure where to go when he reached the end of the hedgerow. He had explored many places on the old homestead, but had not found a place that quite suited him for a summer home. He wondered if he dared investigate the rambling old barn and some of the other places near it. He was afraid that Nero the hound might smell him after his encounter with Aquila the golden eagle. But Spot was anxious to find a home where he could take Miss Spot. You see, Spot was not exactly brave. He might say that he was foolish or thoughtless. Perhaps it was because he trusted in his powerful gun for protection. If Nero the hound came after him, there would be something doing. And so Spot started for the rambling old barn with his funny little gallop. Not far from the rambling old barn, Spot the skunk came to the granary. It had been filled with corn part of the past winter, but Farmer Smith had sold most of it. Of course, he had saved some to feed old Sorrel and the other horses. Spot stopped at one corner of the granary and sniffed. The playful air whiffs were filled with the odor of Whiskers the mouse. Even as Spot stood there sniffing, he could hear Whiskers and his family squeaking and run about in the grain. Now, if there was one thing that Spot the skunk liked more than another to eat, it was mouse. Warm, juicy mouse. Spot could make hunting cat ashamed of himself when it came to catching mice. He could crawl around through small holes where hunting cat could not go, and he could dig out mice nests and do lots of things that hunting cat was too lazy to do. Hunting cat would rather wait until the friends of Whiskers the mouse showed themselves and then pounce on them. But sometimes Whiskers' friends learned to stay in places where hunting cat could not go when they were safe. Spot sniffed at another corner of the granary. That settled it as far as he was concerned. If only he could get under. He was sure it was just the place he was looking for. It would be a safe place for him. It would be warm and dry, and there would be plenty of mice to eat. And so Spot the skunk went on around the granary, looking for a hole where he might get under and do some exploring. But there was not a hole in sight. The granary rested on a rock foundation, and whoever had made it had not thought it necessary to leave a door for Spot the skunk. Around and around went Spot, wondering how he could get under. At last he found a hole. It was a very small hole that Miner the mole had made. Spot started to dig his way under the granary. The ground was hard and dry for a way, but after a while it was softer. Soon Spot felt the earth give way, and he found himself under the granary. You should have heard Whiskers the mouse and his family scamper when they knew that Spot had found them. About the time that Spot succeeded in getting under the granary, Bud Smith came out of the house after a pail of water. "Whew!" he exclaimed. "There must be a skunk somewhere near. I believe I'll see if it is bothering the chickens." After Bud had lighted a lantern and had whistled for Nero the hound, he set out in the direction from which the odor was coming. It did not take Nero long to find the freshly dug opening under the granary, and he called Bud with his loud, deep voice. "Whoa!" "Now that's funny," said Bud, when he saw the small hole leading under the rock foundation. "The hole is too small for a skunk to crawl through, yet that surely must be a skunk. I believe I'll just set a trap for him before he finds the chicken house." And so Bud set a trap right in front of the hole and put a box over it to keep Nero the hound from getting his foot in it. Then he went to the house, feeling sure that the next morning he would have a skunk in the trap. Of course, Spot the skunk had been frightened when he heard Nero's voice outside. He crawled back to the farthest corner he could find. After Bud left, Spot made a bed out of corn husks that Whisker the mouse had carried in and went to sleep. He felt rather secure in his new home, even though he had been discovered. All right, so there you go. I'm gonna see if you guys have said anything. Oh, y'all are talking to each other. I don't know if I can. Oh, I can. Oh, hey! It's the Doty kids. Good to see you guys. Oh, and the Wessons are here. Hey guys, I'm so excited. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry. Miss Samantha's not great at this technology. We were just finished our chapter in The Bluebirds and Their Neighbors. I love this book. It's super fun. Next chapter for next time is Whiskers the Mouse Decides to Move. So we'll see what happens and see if the skunk gets caught in the trap. All right, so before we get started on our lesson on common yarrow, which you probably can see up here on the board, I wanted to give you guys some deeper details that I had discovered about the common yarrow. And since there's so much of it on our property, and there's probably quite a bit of it near you guys, I wanted to give you some more details on it. But I would love for us to look at our Psalm 91. I'm going to do something a little bit different this morning. So are you guys ready to stand up? Okay, Miss Samantha's not going to stand up because I'm going to sit right here and I'm going to read to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one verse at a time. Okay, and you can remember the verses that we've the motions that we've come up to the verse that we've made up for the verses. Excuse me, Miss Samantha has not been sleeping well. So I want you to remember those motions. But if you've got your own motions, go for it. Or if you'd rather not do motions, totally fine. The whole point is for you to get this scripture stuck inside your body, in your hands, in your mind, to stand up and use your body to help you remember it, okay? So that's the whole point, all right? So I'm going to read a verse, and when I read a verse, you're going to repeat after me, or I'll do a portion of the verse, okay? You'll repeat after me, okay? So we'll go back and forth, all right? So I'm going to do it once, and then I'll point at you, and you repeat after me. And then I'll go, and then I'll point at you. We'll see how this works, because I won't be able to hear you, so I hope you can do it. So is everybody up? Everybody up? Up, 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 up. Stand up. Here we go. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler. And from the deadly pestilence. Oh, I didn't say it right. Wait. And from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions. And under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and a buckler. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. Awesome! I hope you guys participated. That is so great. That's all the way up through verse 6, okay? Y'all did amazing. Woo! Okay. So, we are going to move right along, and we're going to move into a little science lesson. So, we did some edible plant study way back when, and we tied common yarrow in there. Now, I'm not certain that you can eat yarrow, okay? We need to do some further research on that. But I am certain that yarrow is very good for medicinal purposes, meaning you can use that to help heal a wound, all right? So we're gonna review, and if you guys have paper near you, or if you wanna come back later and nature journal this, I really encourage you. You know how we've talked about how to keep a journal of the things that we find out in nature? And so we're not just scribbling it down. I encourage you to sometime today get a piece of paper out with matte pencils and watercolors, and I encourage you to really look closely at this video or find some yarrow at your house and draw the details. It does not need to be this perfect drawing. It's not about, oh, I've got the most beautiful masterpiece of art. It is about you looking at the details in detail. What does the stem look like? What does it feel like? What do the leaves look like? So I'm going to show you right now. here is our common yarrow. This is the top of it. When y'all came to the cedar house, all you saw was this fern-like material. It was real close to the ground. Look how tall it has grown. Here's the bottom of it. I'm gonna have to step back. And here's the top of it. So probably from Miss Samantha's knee all the way to my shoulder is how tall it is. Or if I put it at my foot, it goes all the way up to my hip bone. Is that not crazy how tall that yarrow is? It has grown so tall. It's grown so tall. So I'm going to show you the roots. Here are the root system. Miss Megan has talked to you a lot about different root systems. Isn't that beautiful? Little root. All right, and then we're going to go down and look again. So the leaves are very fern-like. They're soft. They look just like ferns. And if you see it first growing in the ground, it's going to look like a fern. And that's when you guys discovered it first. And the stem is it's difficult to bend. You know, it won't break easily. So it's pretty strong stem. And then right here, the reason we know it's common yarrow is because the flower, it's flowering white. These don't look super duper white, but they will be. I promise you. They're a little a tudge white. All right, so here we go. That's some common yarrow. So you see Miss Samantha's picture on the board. Let's see if I can do this backwards. I'm not the best drawer, but there it is, okay? So now I'm gonna come take you to the board, and I'm gonna move my camera a little closer so you can see these words a little bit better. I don't know how this is gonna work. But, so common yarrow, and this is the meaning. Common yarrow, that's how it's spelled. You see it? And then this is the scientific term. This is like a quote, so it starts with an A. Achillea. I have no idea how to say that really. So those of you who are smarter than Miss Samantha, y'all could look that up. Often if you look it up with parent supervision, it will tell you the spelling on how to sound it out, and I didn't do that. I should have done that. And then mylfolum or something. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not the science teacher, but there is how you spell that word, okay? So you would want to write that in your journal. This is a common weed, all right? It's a common weed. You can find these by roadsides. You can find them in your yard. We are finding them everywhere on this property, which is kind of cool, okay? And so this right over here, how to use it, which is most important to us, is how to use it, okay? So before we know how to use it, we need to know, well, what does it do? You know, like how, you know, what does it have in it? What properties does it have in it that would be beneficial to us? So the first property is an antibacterial. It is a natural antibacterial, all right? And so some things that you might use at your house, like we use thieves as an antibacterial sometimes at our house, which is an essential oil. But some people might use Neosporin. It's kind of like this clear gooey stuff that sometimes people put on wounds, all right? If that's gonna help you understand what an antibacterial is. And analgesic. Analgesic. I did look up these words. Analgesic, which means it helps with pain. Analgesic. And if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I'm sorry. I did look it up. Analgesic. But this helps with pain, okay? And then it's also an I looked it up and I can't remember how to say it. Basically, this means that it helps slow down the bleeding process or close up the blood vessels, all right? And this is, so it will numb pain. It stops minor wounds from bleeding. So if you are like gushing blood and like it's a gouge that needs stitches, I would not go find some common yarrow. I would go find medical attention and help, okay? Call your parents or the ER. But for like just a scrape or a cut or whatever, then man, some common yarrow would be good. And I'll show you in a minute how we're gonna do that. So it also numbs pain, and then it speeds up the healing process for just about anything. So that's really, really, really exciting. So this is what you would do if you were gonna use some common yarrow. in your yard for some healing properties. So I'm gonna put my camera down so you can see my little, right here. So you would take these leaves like this and squish them around, and you almost might want to take like almost a mortar, which I'm gonna use a pecan as my mortar, but you'd press it around, goo it up, squish it around, mash it. And this is probably just to get the good stuff all mixed up and pushing out of these leaves that it's stuck in. And it's even more moist than it was before. And like Miss Samantha right here, I have a little bug bite right here, so I'm gonna try it right there. And so you could just rub it on there, hold it on there. You can even put a bandage over it so it could just sit there. But the biggest thing is that you wanna squish it around and do like a mortar paste almost and stick it on there. And let me just tell you, this was very, very itchy, and it started to hurt last night. It's been there for 2 days. That feels pretty good on it, I will be honest. Now with anything, you know, our different bodies are made up, you know, we have different properties, and our bodies are made up differently. So we want to make sure that we're not allergic to something. So you can test it on a little part of your skin, and if you start to have a reaction, please don't keep doing it. Don't reuse it. Don't make yourself use it. But so with your parents' supervision, I encourage y'all to look for some common yarrow. And if you have the opportunity, unfortunately, if you get a wound, we haven't yet had a major wound over here to try it out, but we plan to, and we would love for you to let us know how that turned out. Man, this is really making this feel good. I believe it works. Okay? So there is my little tidbit about common yarrow. I felt like we had not given you enough information about how to use that. And I don't know, it's become one of my favorites. Henley and I really love going on the property and searching for different things. And there's something when you're trying to find edible plants or foraging, things that you can use in nature, you want to be so careful. You want to check many different sources to make sure that you're looking at the correct thing. Like I saw the other day that parsley can be very deceiving. And so there is a type that looks like parsley, but it is poisonous. So there are things that look similar, and so you check your sources, check. Don't just go start eating things from outside and outdoors. Even poison ivy can be confusing, okay? So anyway, I just want to encourage you to always be safe and careful when you're getting out in nature. It's a lovely place to be, but you know, just always be careful. All right, so this is what's going to happen for the rest of our time together. I am going to read a cute little story to you about a cow, because we've been talking so much about Ruby, and so it doesn't have anything to do with common yarrow. This is a little eclectic little time together, but that's all right. A little update on Ruby this morning. Actually last night, I believe she contracted all night long. You know, I slept in my tent next to her and woke up every hour to check on her. This is going on night 4. And she did, and you know, I don't know what's going on, but she's a heifer and she's a new cow, and she's trying to figure this birthing process out, I'm assuming, and she's getting her body ready. And so I didn't know how this morning would turn out, but she got right up when it was time to feed, and I gave her breakfast, and then I let her out to pasture. I did notice when I let her out to pasture that her udders are a lot more full this morning than they were last night. That's a big sign to know that it's pretty soon. If you see some big changes in those udders. Now, I wasn't taking that to heart so much, because I've also been told some calves or some cows or heifers, their milk doesn't fully come in until after the calf is born. And so it can be quite confusing when you're trying to look for these signs. And so that's a little bit about that. But definitely it's a lot more full. When she walked, I was like, whoa. But also the other thing is, so that right hip, you know, I've showed you that left hip has dropped, and you can see the little quarter dimple. The right hip, I keep looking for that to drop, and maybe a hair it's dropped, but not significantly. So maybe that's what we're waiting on. I don't know, but it would be really important for both those hips to drop so that she can open up those ligaments so that the baby can come out. So there we are with Ruby. And on that note, and I'm telling you right now, it's very hard for me to sit over here and not be able to see her in that pasture because I don't want her to have that calf without me. So, you and me both, okay? But right here, for not further ado, so I'm going to read this story to you guys. Ferdinand, of course, I let the secret out. Ferdinand. But after that, I have a really, really cool thing to show you that you won't want to miss about pecans, okay? It's something cool that you could try at home and something we were going to show you guys with the Swiss Family Robinson survival skills. So I'm super excited about that. So here we go. The story of Ferdinand. This is one of my favorite stories. Once upon a time in Spain, there was a little bull and his name was Ferdinand. All the other little bulls he lived with would run and jump and butt their heads together. But not Ferdinand. He liked to sit just quietly and smell the flowers. He had a favorite spot out in the pasture under a cork tree. It was his favorite tree, and he would sit in its shade all day and smell the flowers. Sometimes his mother, who was a cow, would worry about him. She was afraid he would be lonesome all by himself. "Why don't you run and play with the other little bulls and skip and butt your head?" she would say, but Ferdinand would shake his head. "I like it better here where I can sit just quietly and smell the flowers." His mother saw that he was not lonesome, and because she was an understanding mother, even though she was a cow, she let him just sit there and be happy. As the years went by, Ferdinand grew and grew until he was very big and strong. All the other bulls who had grown up with him in the same pasture would fight each other all day. They would butt each other and stick each other with their horns. What they wanted most of all was to be picked to fight at the bullfights in Madrid. But not Ferdinand. He still liked to sit just quietly under the cork tree and smell the flowers. One day, 5 men came in very funny hats to pick the biggest, fattest, roughest bull to fight in the bullfights in Madrid. All the other bulls ran around snorting and butting, leaping and jumping, so the men would think that they were very, very strong and fierce and pick them. Ferdinand knew that they wouldn't pick him, and he didn't care, so he went out to his favorite cork tree to sit down. He didn't look where he was sitting, and instead of sitting on the nice cool grass in the shade, he sat on a bumblebee. Well, if you were a bumblebee and a bull sat on you, what would you do? You would sting him, and that's just what the bee did to Ferdinand. Wow, did it hurt! Ferdinand jumped up with a snort. He ran around, puffing and snorting and butting and pawing the ground as if he were crazy. The 5 men saw him, and they all shouted with joy. Here was the largest, fiercest bull of all, just the one for the bullfights in Madrid. So they took him away for the bullfight day in a cart. What a day it was! Flags were flying, bands were playing, and all the lovely ladies had flowers in their hair. They had a parade into the bull ring. First came the banderellos and long sharp pins with ribbons on them to stick in the bull and make him mad. Next came the picadors, who rode skinny horses, and they had long spears to stick in the bull and make him madder. Then came the matador, the proudest of all. He thought he was very handsome and bowed to the ladies. He had a red cape and sword and was supposed to stick the bull last of all. Then came the bull, and you know what? Who that was, don't you? They called him Ferdinand the Fierce, and all the banderellos were afraid of him, and the picadors were afraid of him, and the matador was scared stiff. Ferdinand ran to the middle of the ring, and everyone shouted and clapped because they thought he was going to fight fiercely and butt and snort and stick his horns around. But not Ferdinand. When he got to the middle of the ring, he saw the flowers and all the lovely ladies' hair, and he just sat down quietly and smelled. He wouldn't fight and be fierce no matter what they did. He just sat and smelled. And the banderellos were mad, and the picadors were madder, and the matador was so mad he cried because he couldn't show off his cape and sword. So they had to take Ferdinand home. And for all I know, he's sitting there still under his favorite pork tree, smelling the flowers just quietly. He is very happy. The end. Such a fun story. I love it. I love it. Okay, so this next part is something pretty fun. Okay, so what you're going to do is, I'm going to move this down where you can't see my face. You can just see my hands, okay? So what you're going to do, let me make sure that this is adjusted properly. All right, I hope you can see this. Here, I'm gonna do this. There we go. So you wanna take these pecans, move this yarrow. I got a pecan, oh! Ah! All right, take the pecans, and you want, so basically we are going to make a fire out of nuts, okay? That's what we're going to do. We're gonna make a fire out of nuts. You can do any kind of nut, but we have pecans here. And I forgot to bring my hammer over here, so I'm going to try to use this pail to kind of crush, ooh, there we go, or crack the pecans. So like so, and so you want to separate the shells from the nuts, put them over to the side, okay? And if you choose to have a little tasty snack in between, that's totally fine. No judgment here. But get those shells out of the way, but you definitely want the nuts over in this pile because that is what we're going to make the fire out of. I hope that y'all are having a wonderful time. I miss you guys. I cannot wait till we can all be back together, doing all this fun stuff together. It's a little lonesome to do it by myself. Ooh. Oh my goodness, I was robbed. There's not a single nut in there. What in the world? Okay, we're gonna throw that aside. Glad I got several. Let's see. Oh, good. There's a pecan in there. This would not go over well if there wasn't. And so what you want to do, I'm going to have my cooking show. I'm Julia Child. Yes, oh yes. You want to break the pecan out of her shell, just like so. It's quite lovely, you know. You may have a little snack if you please, but don't eat them all, because then you will not be able to make a fire. Okay, that was my little Julia Child, if you even know who she is, little rendition. I love doing silly cooking shows with her voice. Miss Samantha kind of likes to do characters. I'm a little silly like that. Okay, one more. We're gonna do one more pecan. And you know what? Here's a little secret. Miss Samantha has not tested this. I just read about it. So we'll see. Ooh! Oh, good. It's another one with pecan in it. Man, these pecans look really good. You know, we really didn't do a lot of tasting these pecans. I know some of y'all did during free time and lunch. Y'all would break them during class and snack on them, which is super fun. The dogs do it, and you know, the birds, I think they're eating the pecans that we haven't picked. This morning, Miss Samantha, you know, I've been seeing this blue, I told y'all before, I've been seeing this blue heron on our pond. Comes like 2-3 times a day. It's so beautiful and majestic. But this morning, I looked over and there were these two little, they looked like they had webbed feet. I'm gonna post a picture of it later. But they came together and they look like babies or, you know, young, but they're about the size of my ducks. And I'm wondering if they were babies of those geese that keep hanging around, because after they saw me, they flew off so they can fly. But I was like, what? And they have these really magnificent orange beaks. So I'm curious. I'm going to go look it up. I saw it this morning, so I'm curious to find out what it is. All right, so what you want to do is you want to make a pile like a little volcano of these nuts, okay? Oh, I've got a couple more here. And I hope, it wasn't windy this morning, but now the wind has kind of picked up. So I really, Lord, please let this work. Now, anytime you mess with fire, you always want your parents present. You don't want to just go do this by yourself. No pyros in the cedar house. Always want to have an adult present and make sure that it is okay to do what you're about to do. Okay? So here we go. We'll use a flint next time. Maybe too windy. Let's see. Now here comes the wind. Do y'all see that flame? Do y'all see it? Can you see the flame? It is burning. Look at that. And it's supposed to burn for quite a while. I mean, I'm assuming if the wind's not super bad. So like you could put it on like a little bitty bowl or something and carry it around for a little, they call it a nut lamp. Oops, almost burnt that out. So the oils are what's burning, almost like a lantern. So they call it a nut lamp. Do y'all see it now? Isn't that so cool? So it'll sit there burning. So if you needed a little light or a fire starter or just something that could keep burning, little nuts are a good trick. I think that's super, super cool. Even in the wind, it's still going. And I made sure I had this wood slab. It's like a little circle of wood. So I'm not, putting it on a book or on a table that's going to burn it down. But if I had it on a smaller piece of wood, I could carry it around like a little lantern, like a little wood chip. Or even like a little bowl to kind of protect the wind around the edge. That would be a good idea. Like even these, I wonder what it would do if we'd put it in this, if it would, let's try that real fast while that's burning. I think that flame is so incredibly cool. Don't y'all? See how long it burns. Can you think of some Bible verses that talk about light? God's word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. That's one. Jesus is the light of the world. Here, that'll do it. Pounding it hard is always helpful. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Won't let Satan it out, I'm gonna let it shine. Won't let Satan it out, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Shine it until Jesus comes. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine it until Jesus comes. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. So basically, this is just a nut lamp that we're making, and I decided I'm gonna try it one more time in this, oh, y'all can see what I'm doing good. In this, what is that called? A coconut shell. Swiss Family Robinson, you know, they did a lot of things with coconuts. Coconut shells, they made bowls. So we're gonna put a little nut lamp in here. See, although the wind doesn't seem to be affecting that lamp, and it's lasting for a long time. So the oils in the nut keep it burning just like an oil lamp would. You know, and these little Texas native pecans that we have on our land, they're supposed to have the most oil in them, and I can touch them. There's a lot of oil here. You always want to have fire safety when you're dealing with fire. You want parents around to help and guide you in the process. Okay, so I've got a couple here. I'm gonna light this one and see if put it under the table to get away from the wind for a second. And here comes the wind. I think it's lighting, guys. Yep. A little ember. Okay, let's see if y'all can see this. Yeah. Did y'all see it? Yeah, y'all do. Look at that. It's even in the bowl. Isn't that so fun? So you could use your little coconut. And look, the other one is still burning. You want to put it too close together. So isn't that so much fun? I just love stuff like this. So anyway, there's a little survival skill for you to try with your parents at home. So that's really pretty much all I had for you guys. I'm so thankful for y'all. I want to go ahead and pray with you guys before we leave, because I think it's important that we do that, even though this really wasn't a super big morning time. Maybe Friday when Mr. Chad's off, we can do a big morning time where we can sing some worship songs together. But anyway, I'm thankful for you guys. I hope that y'all have a great day. I'm going to go check on Ruby and see how she's doing, but I'm going to end this time together with prayer. Father, I just pray blessing on every single Cedar House family and every family that's connected to us. Just pray that you would care for them and be with the kids, and then help them to tune their hearts to you and learn to love you with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength. We praise you and honor you for all the things that you've done for us, how you've created us and given us life and beauty, and help us to just trust in you and care for others. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, I hope that y'all have a beautiful day. Love you guys. See you soon. Yes. All right, bye-bye.